All right, Denis Morton, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Greg. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so psyched to have you. It's really an honor. I've been taking a ton of your classes in the run up to this. As soon as I found out we were going to be recording this episode, I've been doing nonstop Denis Morton classes. So if I fade or fall over during the middle of this interview, I can only blame you because I did a very intense hit ride with you this morning. So,
well, thank you, and I'm sorry.
Okay, so I think, as you know, I love to dive in on this podcast with my guests to talk about their habits, their routines, all their different practices, and really dive in to get into specifics because we found that it really helps people to hear about, what some of the people that they really admire, what they do in their own routine. So I want to get into all that with you: sleep, nutrition, fitness, obviously. And I also think that I also believe that you and I are roughly the same vintage, almost exactly the same. Almost exactly the same.
I was bottled in 78.
Yeah, same. Yeah. So I was under that impression, and then it was confirmed to me yesterday on your 80s ride when I think I was the only one that really got your Freedom Rock reference there.
Freedom Rock and Wrath of Khan. Yeah, there was a number of solid 80s references in that one.
There's some good ones. You had me going back to YouTube the Freedom Rock commercial from '88. There was some solid hits in that one.
There was.
And in fact, you could get it in, this was interesting to me, you could get it in 4 records, 3 cassettes, or 2 CDs. I was like, 1988? They were already selling CDs? I don't even remember that.
I had a friend give another friend Freedom Rock as a joke because we had used that line as a joke for so long that they got it as a birthday gift on CD. But this was solidly into the 90s.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You had me cracking up when you made that reference. I was like, all right, I haven't thought about that in like 20 years. So well done.
Thank you.
That was solid. Okay. So, but before we get into fitness, nutrition, all that kind of good stuff, I'm sure all of our listeners would love to, know more just about your story. So I think most people probably recognize you from Peloton. They recognize you from the bike, from the mat. Very well recognized instructor, very well loved instructor. And so I think people recognize you from that, but obviously you had a life before you joined Peloton. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, where the legend of Denis Morton began, so to speak.
I did have a life before Peloton. I was born in Florida, in 78, like we discussed. I was raised on the East Coast. I'm a surfer. I'm the child of 2 teachers, and they were teachers all year long so that they could take us away to Maine and live on an island so that they could be Outward Bound instructors. Wow. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Outward Bound, but it's an outdoor experiential education program that takes people out of their comfort zone and gives them opportunities to gain a great deal of self-knowledge and a relationship with the natural world. So that was a huge part of my childhood. And I've never actually done an Outward Bound course, but I lived it 3 or 4 months a year for a long time. So I garnered a number of the benefits just sort of through osmosis. And
that's awesome.
I grew up playing soccer and football and surfing, and some of my earliest memories are body surfing with my arms around my dad's neck, like using him as my boogie board. And played football in high school, graduated high school, played football for a couple of years at a small college in Northeast Tennessee called Tusculum College, a very interesting place that worked on a block system. So normally you do like Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday kind of classes. And when you show up at Tusculum, you do 1 class at a time, 3 hours a day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 12. You do it for 3.5 weeks. You take a final on a Wednesday, get a 4-day break, and then you come back for the next course. So for some things, it's super immersive and really wonderful. For things like organic chemistry, say, it's here's the periodic table, come back and learn it tomorrow.
Wow.
But it really worked well for me. I loved it. And I did a couple of years there and went back to my hometown. I realized at some point that that I was not going to go to the NFL and that my body was beginning to fall apart under me, and I wanted it to work when we got to our current age. And I went back and finished up my AA at community college and got on a yacht. My father was a sea captain before he became a teacher and then a licensed mental health counselor. And he used his connections to get me onto the tallest single-masted ship in the world at the time. And I did a season just off the coast of Long Island in Sag Harbor, and then ended up back in my hometown for a while and got a job as a land surveyor and did that for 4 years, spinning angles and using the trigonometry I never knew I'd need from high school.
Wow. Impressive. I didn't realize all this varied background.
Oh man, wait until we get into my list of cars.
I heard you say you only drive old cars. I think I saw you say that somewhere.
Well, I guess my car now is old. I have an '06 4Runner, but up until that one, I don't think I'd ever paid more than $1,000 for a car. So if you're not comfortable fixing them or leaving them on the side of the road, you just buy another. Yeah. But so 4 years of land surveying, and I left that to go to massage school. And I graduated massage school and was a working massage therapist for a time. I moved briefly to Miami and came right back home and went to a wedding in Los Angeles for 5 days that ended up turning into about 10 years. I got to LA, and I'd never really spent much time in California, and I got there and there were waves on one side and mountains on the other and friendly people in between. And I spent about 2 weeks traveling around the desert Southwest with a good friend of mine and landed in San Francisco. And once in San Francisco, they said, stay a week. And I stayed a week, and a week turned into 3, and 3 weeks turned into 6 months. And I eventually moved back down to LA and found my way.
Now, was your love of surfing, was that a Florida inspired thing, or was that?
It was. Florida seems from the outside like an unlikely destination for surf, but we've got a number of world champions. The greatest of all time, Kelly Slater, is from Cocoa Beach, which is just 30 miles or up the road from me. And the Hobgood brothers, one of whom was a world champion. The Lopez brothers, both of whom were on the world tour for a long, long time. The East Coast of Florida is a hotbed of surfing talent. And partly because the waves come so infrequently and are not as powerful as some other places. If you can learn to create power out of something that doesn't provide it inherently, when you get something that is powerful, all you have to learn to do is control it.
There's got to be a life lesson in there. In some way, shape, or form.
It's very on brand for me to look for it, but I'm going to let you guide the conversation.
Are you able to, sidebar, but are you able to surf in New York? I assume you're in New York.
I am. I'm in New York, and I'm able to surf. I hesitate to say it in a public forum, but
you don't have to tell me your spot. Have you surfed at Ditch Plains before?
Oh, I have. All I was going to say is that New York and New Jersey are sleepers.
Interesting.
They are that car that doesn't look like much at the stoplight and then leaves you in the dust. When it's good here, it's very good.
Yeah, you got to be a little more comfortable in your wetsuit or your dry suit maybe than in some of those other locations.
There are days that it is more an affirmation of who you are than recreation. Yes.
I spent a couple of summers out in Montauk. I used to live in the city for most of my 20s. I lived in the city, and friends and I would rent a house out in Montauk every summer. So got into surfing a little bit. If you saw me surf, you might not refer to it as actual surfing, but in my mind it was surfing. And I still have a big 12-foot glass board sitting over here in my garage in North Carolina that hasn't been used in a while.
One of my favorite surfers, Brad Gerlach, says the best surfer in the water is the one having the most fun. Yeah. So it's not necessarily about what it looks like. It's about how it feels.
I like that. Okay. So pretty varied background. I mean, your parents sound like really interesting folks. I was just watching something or listening to something yesterday that said it was talking about basically making an argument that kids should not get into universities based on the fact that their parents went there. And it was referring to an old Chinese proverb saying basically that don't give credit to the next generation for somebody, give credit to their parents, right? Because if something special happened here, their parents probably had a lot to do with it, right?
Sure.
So sounds like your parents were they the biggest influence on you, growing up?
Absolutely. I was just emailing them just before you and I got on. I just saw them at Christmas, and they're huge influences. They're brilliant. I'm eternally grateful for everything they gave me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And experientially, awesome. I really was born on third and thought I hit a triple for a while.
I mean, that's great. That's great. You strike me as somebody who's very grounded and comfortable in your own skin. And I'm guessing that a lot of that kind of was the influence of your parents.
It is. And thank you. I worked hard at it, and it took a long time, but I feel that way now. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. So fast forward, you go to massage school, you graduate there. So you're kind of getting into the space where you are, more involved with, I don't know, fitness adjacent, I will say. And then, so where along the lines do you decide, okay, I think there's a career here for me in fitness?
I followed a girl into yoga in about 2002.
Okay.
I still write
that can
occasionally.
Explain a lot of career choices and other choices, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as way leads on to way. And my early 20s were very much like so many other people's, where they're aimless and drifting and maybe making decisions that aren't going to serve them in the future. And I had an epiphany at some point and realized that I needed a massive life change, and I made it. And one of the things that enabled me to make that shift was yoga, because it gave me something so physically challenging and personally fulfilling that it made me want to make better decisions. And interestingly enough, the girl tried to get me to go to yoga for a long time, and I would never go. And then when she left, she went off to go do a training and disappeared for years. And I walked in the next day, and sort of in a quest to feel connected. And then I did it every day for 16 months. And wow. And it really empowered me and enabled me to make an incredibly positive shift in my life. And when I moved to Los Angeles, I thought I was going to be an actor or a model like everybody else, living out Plan B 20 years later. And I answered a Craigslist posting the first week I was there about being in a yoga DVD. And I wanted to get on camera, and I wanted to meet people in the entertainment industry. And I thought this will be a good way. So I had been a telemarketer in high school. We don't have enough time to discuss all the jobs I've done, but I had been a telemarketer in high school, and that's an easy job to just walk into and do in a new city. So I was a telemarketer and took a day off from this telemarketing job that I had gotten day one when I walked into LA, and lost the job as a result of taking the day off, but got the gig in the yoga DVD. And I shot the yoga DVD, and 6 months later they reached out and said, thank you so much for doing this yoga DVD. I mean, it was for free. I didn't get paid for it, but thank you so much for doing this DVD. Would you be interested in teacher training as a compensation? And I said, absolutely. And I showed up to the teacher training a couple days later, and I walked in, and I thought I was just going to teach yoga. And they said, all right, great. Go ahead and get on a bike. I said,
oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I said, no. I don't think you understand. I'm here to teach yoga. And they said, yeah, you don't get to teach yoga here without teaching spinning. The place was called Yaz. It stood for yoga and spinning. And I thought, we're 4 blocks from the beach in Venice, California. There's a bike path right over there with girls playing volleyball and waves breaking. Like, why would I ride a bike in a brick room with a panting, sweating cheerleader?
Yep. Had you done it before?
I didn't even know it was a thing, Greg. I didn't know spinning existed. This is 2005. Okay. 2005. And I thought, well, I mean, you bought the ticket, take the ride. And I put my toes, my tennis shoes in the little toe cages, and ground my way through my very first spin class, and I walked out with the corners of my mouth pinned back to my ears and a big endorphin rush. And I thought, maybe. And then I walked into yoga, and the whole concept there was you would do a half hour or 45 minutes of cycling, and then you would walk right onto your yoga mat.
Oh,
and
interesting.
Your hips are warmed up. Your lower back is warmed up. Your body you've gotten your cardio out of the way. Your your lungs are open, and you're prepared to receive the gifts that yoga has to offer in a really, really accessible way. And I was hooked.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me. Hearing the way you described that, going from the spinning to the yoga, because I've felt that myself, and many times you get that high from the intense cardio, and then you're ready and your body needs probably some, to be moved in different ways and stretched and stuff.
It's the foundation for my Reset series on the platform. So on the Peloton platform, I have a series called Reset that we do a cycling class, and then the last song in the cycling class is the first song in the yoga class. And you go right from the bike onto the yoga mat. Your body's warmed up, your breath is ready. And one of the elements that I really like to bring from that is sort of a mindful, more emotional pull in the cycling class. And it's a yogic vibe all the way through the entire progression. And it's maybe my favorite thing to teach.
Wow. Okay, cool. I got to check that out. Question for you. Is there any existing footage from that original DVD that you did?
I have it.
Oh yeah?
I do.
That's got to get it. That's got to get up online somehow.
It's funny. It's called Yoga for Athletes. And, I look like I'm struggling greatly because I am. I had been doing, Bikram yoga for most of my time doing yoga, and this was an entirely new style for me. And I was, my body was capable, but I hadn't wrapped my head and body around those poses yet. So, I haven't watched it in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it would be comfortable for me to do that. So maybe I should.
I have a feeling it would be a YouTube sensation if it got up there. Was this long-haired Dennis that was in that video?
Actually, this Dennis had very much the same haircut he has now.
Oh, okay.
Long-haired Dennis has come and gone 3 or 4 times.
Okay. Okay.
But it always sort of comes back to this. Yeah, I call it the rhino.
I was introduced to you as long-haired Dennis, and I was like, it took me a little while. I was like, I don't know this guy. I don't know, with the hair and everything. I'm just gonna be honest with you. And then one of my friends was like, I was like, dude, you got to check it out. Like he does like jam band rides, and I'm like, all right, well,
I just got to meet Trey Anastasia the other day, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I walked out of yoga and walked past one of my favorite Thai restaurants, and I thought, no, I'll go eat at home. And I got a block down the road, and I was like, no, I need food now. And I went back, and he was eating there with a few friends, and I walked past him and sat down and ate my meal, and he was still there when I walked out. And I stopped at his table and said, I don't mean to bother you, but I do want to tell you that the world is a better place because of the way you share your gifts. And it's meant a lot to me. He was super receptive. And then I walked away.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
It was fun for me.
I was walking through LaGuardia one day, and Trey Anastasio, turns out, it was coming the other way. It was like basically an empty hallway. But I had one of those moments where I could not place him. And I was like walking by, and I was like, stare at a guy, probably gave him the creepiest look ever. And he just goes, hi. And I'm like, hi. And then I walk by him, and then I get in a cab, and I'm like, Trey Anastasio.
He's a nice guy.
I'm sure. But anyhow, I got introduced to you through some of you have very varied music taste. So maybe we should talk about that. But I was a big Fish guy back in the 90s. Attended a bunch of concerts in the mid 90s and all that.
Me too. And then I walked away for about 15 or 20 years, and it was only in joining Peloton that some of my closest friends when I got here were big fans, and I started going back. Cool. And it's really rekindled a love for the whole genre.
I feel like Fish is one of those bands that you can come back to. You could be like, all right, I'm done listening to, or not listen to it for 10 years and then come back and be like, oh my God, there's so much good stuff here. And you get into it for a couple months.
You can do that 3 times in the same song.
Yeah. And they have, oh my God, they have such a library. Okay. So you find your way to spinning. And then let's fast forward to when Peloton, I think gives you a call at some point. How does that all go down?
I taught at that same place in Venice for about 7 years. I moved to SoulCycle in 2012. I left SoulCycle in late 2014 and, I got an offer to partner and open a new chain in Dallas-Fort Worth. I moved to Dallas-Fort Worth in 2014 and we built 4 studios and I trained about 50 instructors and learned a great deal. And shout out to Funky Town. At the time I was very busy and had my hands deep in a project and I thought, man, I got a job. But I said, thank you very much. I'm on vacation. Let's talk next week. And when I got back,
that was Robin Arzon.
It was Robin Arzon.
Instructor?
Yes,
okay.
Robin Arzon.
So she's like building the business. She's like on the bike and then also building the business at the same time, sort of thing.
She is a juggernaut.
I was going to say.
She is a massively talented, driven, wonderful human being. Yeah. And I'm forever grateful for her texting me and for Ben Tertian for giving her my name. But I remember the conversation because we talked for about 20 minutes. I was standing in my walk-in closet, which is a thing that you can have in Dallas and not so much in New York City. And I had this entire conversation in my walk-in closet. And at the end, and this is like during a time that I've been teaching for 10 plus years. I've been training teachers for 7 plus years. I'm in the process of training instructors in an ongoing cycle. And she said, well, yeah, we'd want you to audition. And I thought, funny. But she was very impressive. And I thought, let's give it a look. So I said, in a perfect world, when would this audition take place for you? And she said, March 31st. And I said, incidentally, I land in New York City for a birthday party on March 31st at 11 a.m. She didn't miss a beat. She said, can you be here at 3? And I said, yeah, do I need to bring shoes?
Awesome.
Yeah. And then I did the audition and they reached out or they said, we'll be in touch in 2 days. 10 days of sweat-soaked sheets later, I got a message again saying, will you come back and audition again? And I came back again and then a third round for meetings. And eventually I made the decision. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Very cool. Was that 2017?
That was March of 2017 is when the whole thing started.
Okay.
I joined the company in June of 17 and launched in July.
June of 17. Okay.
So we're coming up on 6 years.
With you, Dennis, I've been on Peloton longer than you. I got my bike. I got my bike right at the end of 15, I think. So, I remember I was on it when I first got it. I would join the like live 6 a.m. rides with like Hannah Corbin, and it would be like 25 people on there, and everybody gets their name called. I'm like, yeah, I got to do that 6 a.m. ride because I got to get my name called. And like, can you imagine that though? Like now, like how much it's grown. Like everybody.
It wasn't too far past that when I arrived. And also, I suppose I should thank you because without the early adopters and the members being there, I wouldn't have had the opportunity.
I never did a spin class or anything before I bought the bike. Like there was a massively effective Facebook ad that got me. I was like, I need that thing, and I got it. And I'm like a couple 1,000 rides into it now. I'm still on the original Peloton bike, so I probably need an upgrade at some point. But
fortunately, it still works well.
It does. It honestly does. It honestly does.
And it's
Although there's a couple of
places.
features in the new one that I'm like, kind of pining for. So
I have the Bike Plus here in my extra bedroom, and I very commonly do my own little reset and jump off the bike and into a yoga class.
Oh man, yeah, you might be selling me on that one. All right. So it's funny. I saw a video of you and Emma Lovewell doing like an intro video when you first joined Peloton. Do you remember that?
I do. I do. We filmed it on the roof in the West Village.
Yeah, yeah. That's up on YouTube. You know what? You're a hard guy to find. Like, you have a pretty small digital footprint. I'm sure that's by design. I usually pride myself on doing research on guests before this podcast. I was like, I can't find anything on this guy. He's keeping it tight.
I don't mean to be an enigma, but I also never really intended to be a public figure. I wanted to pay forward the gifts that yoga had given me. I wanted to share the gift. Music has always been a huge passion of mine, and spinning was a really excellent opportunity for me to share that. And I love being able to share those gifts, but I never had any intentions or designs on fame. And that it's a funny thing to become a public figure. There are parts of it that are absolutely wonderful, and there are parts that aren't entirely comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. So how would you say, so you've been at Peloton for like 6 years now? Is that right?
It'll be 6 years in June.
Okay. And so how would you say life has changed over that time? And for every, whether it's publicity related stuff or what, but I'm just curious, like how life has changed for you over that time period.
Well, it's funny. You're catching me at an interesting time because, 5.5 years into this journey, I am turning the corner, and I haven't actually said this anywhere yet, but this seems like a perfectly solid venue to announce it. Like 2020, and this isn't a thing I do. I don't do resolutions. I don't, I'm just living here. But 2023 is going to be the year of adding value. And one of the ways I can add value to my own life is by sharing my gifts. And one of my gifts is music. One of my gifts is yoga. And one of my gifts is insight, sharing my struggle and the insights that I've gained along the way. And that is the way that I intend to increase my digital footprint. I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you to do research when I come back for my second round, whenever that is.
Okay.
And, but how has life changed? It's constantly telescoping. When I first started at Peloton, you launch and you have all of this excitement behind your premiere ride, and then you've been planning this ride for a month, and in the way that an artist's first album is so commonly so powerful that you've had your whole life to write it. You've been preparing for this moment your entire life, and then now do it again tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And about once a month, I would walk down for the first year and a half or two. I would walk down the stairs at 23rd Street at the old studio and say, you know what? I think I'm finally getting the hang of this. And 6 years in, I think I'm finally getting the hang of this. It has gotten more comfortable. I was just in the locker room yesterday with Emma Lovewell and Rebecca Kennedy, two of our incredible instructors. And we were discussing the thing that we do. And I was saying how artistic and challenging it is, and how we just don't even really register that. We walk in like it's, Sunday afternoon and it's time to show up and do the thing. And I mean, I've been surfing for 30 years. And when I paddle out, I don't think a whole lot about popping up to my feet. But in the beginning, that's a huge obstacle. And Rebecca mentioned in this conversation that people's number one fear is public speaking. Above death. Above death, people are afraid of public speaking. And we just do it. And we do it for 45 minutes with no commercial break, no time to adjust your makeup or check your notes. You just get up and do the thing. And maintain like a level of enthusiasm through it. Like that can't be easy every single day, And this is part of what I'm saying. I don't want to speak for anyone else. It's part of who I am. I am excited. I'm excited to be on the bike. I'm excited to share this music. I'm excited to share this workout. I worked hard on it. I've been working hard on it for years to get to the place where I can share it effectively and efficiently. And there's something about the red light going on next to the camera that just turns you on. The switch flips and it's go time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of adrenaline involved, and very rarely do we stop while the thing is happening and think about what we're doing.
Well, I got to tell you, it's fun to watch. It is like, I can't think of a better, like more engaging workout. And I think that's what's hooked me. But like even just doing this HIIT workout I did this HIIT ride of yours this morning. And I was like, this guy is loving it. Like you were just jamming, smacking the side of that bike. And I'm like, you make it fun.
You use my hands occasionally.
The intensity though is, it's infectious.
Thanks,
and
man.
it helps. And that's what people, I think really need. So,
well, we all want a little bit of passion in our lives, and it's nice to be able to tap into that on demand.
Yeah. All right. So I'm not gonna kind of go further into what you were just mentioning in terms of making it easier to find out, unless you wanted to share more. But we can leave it there if you want. Or
easier to find out. Oh, the digital footprint thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just incredibly private. I absolutely love being able to serve this community. I've loved being able to serve and build and provide value for every community I've ever been a part of. This one is, I liken this to going from being a small town preacher to a televangelist overnight. The audience grows and the ripple that I'm able to make in that pond expands much wider. And that's wonderful. But I call myself a hypersocial hermit.
Okay.
I've got
explain that.
I've got a solid balance of introvert and extrovert. So that when I'm out and being social and public, I am that, and I feel that, and it's very genuine. And when I close the door, I need my own space to recharge. And in the information age, doors exist in many different manifestations, and one of those doors is digital. So part of what I was talking about with adding value is I've been returning to my roots musically and listening to entire albums. When the Pink Floyds, the Led Zeppelins, the early concept albums where it was meant to be experienced in its entirety, as a full story. And I've been listening to albums all the way through. And one of the things people come to me for is my broad musical taste and the depth of my passion for music. And one of the ways that I can provide value in other people's lives is sharing that passion. So without inviting you into my living room, I can invite you into my experience and suggest an emotional journey that has helped me, and I hope will help you.
That's awesome.
So I'm posting about albums almost every day. Some of those musicians are reaching out to me, which is
that's cool.
Yeah, just sort of mind blowing, and really I'm such a fan. So I'm like, I'm blowing up inside
cool.
about that.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and
cool.
I've got some other projects in the works that I'm not going to talk about yet, but that I'm also very excited about. Ways to add value to my own life by adding value to other people's lives that I think will enhance all of our experience and make our connections more stronger. My mother taught freshman comp. I hope she doesn't hear that.
We won't send her the transcript. Don't worry.
Well, I'm definitely going to send her the link. But that I hope will strengthen our connections and add meaning to our days.
Isn't that funny that the idea of serving others and like adding value to the world? Like I said, the last 2 years I've been getting like really serious about planning out my whole year and like starting with what am I trying to do? Who am I trying to be in each different part of my life? Right. And then, so starting almost at like the identity level and then going down, taking that down to what does that mean in terms of daily actions? Okay. So what daily actions would actually prove this identity that I, say I have?
Yeah. Purpose, mission statement, macrocycle, mesocycle, microcycle. Like how does my morning change the day, and how does the day change the week, change the month? Yeah. Life is made up of small moments linked together.
That's a good way to put it. But anyhow, right on the top of this whole thing. So I'm a whiteboard guy. I have a whiteboard right in front of me, and right on the top of it says serve others. Like, and I think about what is my purpose. And this, not to get too philosophical on you here.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that.
But I think about like, what is my purpose? And I think it is very similar to what you're saying. Like, I think the way that I verbalized it was to use my talents, gifts, and resources to serve others. Right. And that could be in different ways. That's serving my kids as a dad. That's serving my listeners as a podcast host and trying to ask valuable questions. Like, that could be different ways, but maybe it's something about you hit the age 43 or 44 and you're like, hey, it's actually not all about me. It is actually like the real good stuff in life is about serving other people.
Oh, absolutely. And like the multiplicity of the roles that you play and how you negotiate those and blend those together and how one can make the others stronger. Yeah, it's, and in that regard, that does go all the way back to my parents. And, I was having a conversation with my brother. We do a snowboard trip every year, somewhere different, and explore a new place. But we were discussing, he's a fireman in Florida. He always knew he wanted to be a fireman. I was always jealous of that, knowing what you want to be. But what he was discussing with me is like, what is my legacy? He's a few years older than I am. He's got 3 kids. He's a little more accelerated on this philosophical discussion that we're talking about just because of those experiences. But it really got my wheels turning. And yeah, what is our legacy? And it doesn't matter that, a million people remember me, but how do my kids remember me? How does, yeah.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing's a coral reef. There's a living layer on the top of it, but we're all living on the structure left by other people.
Spoken like a true surfer.
Well, we try not to hit the reef.
Okay. Well, let's go from the more macro or strategic or philosophical, and let's go a little more tactical, if you don't mind. And so I mentioned up front, I love to talk about habits and routines and really get into that kind of stuff. So I'd love to hear about what that looks like for you. I'm sure it's a little different given that, you're working out basically as part of your job, but talk to me about like what a typical day looks like for you. And maybe it might be interesting. I love talking about sleep routines, morning routines, all that kind of stuff. So maybe start the night before, like maybe start like, what does bedtime situation look like for you? And then take me through like the morning routine.
Oh, I saw this question coming and I was afraid of it. I am not a creature of habit.
Okay. You're busting all my theories. Right now
I have. Well, and it's funny. Like people think of me as a really structured, orderly person, and I'm. Yeah. I guess it feels orderly in my head. It's like a really messy desk that no one else would be able to find anything on, but I know where everything is. And
I think they say like a messy desk is a sense of like intelligence or brilliance or something like that. So, or that's what I say to myself every time I look at.
Well, I wasn't trying to back my way into that, but I like the way it landed. I try to do yoga every day. I've been really good about that lately, and I feel amazing. Other than yoga every day, and yoga can be as little as, sitting for 10 minutes and breathing, but I do try to actually move. And, if I don't stretch my hips, as you know, at some point, whether it's your 30s or your 40s, you begin to feel a little bit more like the Tin Man, and things take a moment longer to warm up and the joints take a moment to loosen. But yeah, I try to do yoga every day. I have listened to a number of your podcasts, and I've heard 8 Sleep mentioned a number of times. And I have been waffling about diving into an 8 Sleep mattress for a while, but I like the idea of temperature control and data. And I was just discussing that with my girlfriend before we started this podcast. And I had to walk away from that conversation. I was like, we're going to have to pick this up later. But
we can mention too. There's the CEO of 8 Sleeps. Like I always trade tweets back and forth with him.
Oh, right on.
So he's a cool guy. We can mention that to him.
We'll give him my best.
Got to get you one to try out.
I will. So I'm not a creature of habit. I don't have a bedtime. I don't have a wake up time. My schedule is atypical. So like somebody, if you have kids, your kids get up at a certain time and you have to be there for them. When I was teaching, regular fitness in the old paradigm, I had 6 a.m. classes and I woke up at 4:45, whether I liked it or not. And, at Peloton, it's a slightly different schedule, and my production team has been exceptionally gracious with me recently, and it's been very, very civilized. I would wake up naturally on my own at about 9:30 every day. It's much earlier if there's.
What time you go to bed if you're going to wake up at 9:30? Must be a pretty late bedtime.
I do my best work between midnight and 3.
Oh, you're a night owl.
And I've been trying, and that's always been true since I was a little kid. Certainly since like junior high school, and I've been able to adjust it when I had 4:45 wake up times. But given my druthers, I always sort of revert to the mean
kind of
about
natural rhythm.
Yeah. And like I've been trying to go to bed early, and last night I lay in bed for about an hour and a half and gave up and got up and made 2 playlists and class plans and went to bed again at 3. I'm not endorsing it for anyone else. I'm just saying it's
that's how some people are naturally wired that way, I think.
Well, and I feel like you just have to lean into it. So much of yoga is about surrender. And I fought it and I fought it and I fought it, and maybe this is just the way I'm supposed to operate. So maybe go with the flow.
I'm the total opposite. Yeah, I've always been a super early morning person. Like even in college, I'd shut it down at 8 p.m. I'd be like 8 p.m. Not like socially, but shut it down like studying. Like no studying is done after 8 p.m. And I'd be at the library at like 7 a.m. My friends are like, "You crazy? Like who goes in college? Who goes to the library at 7 a.m.?" Like that's just when my my natural rhythm.
And I have great admiration for that kind of discipline. It's just never been mine.
Well, that's just the way that my body clock works. It's kind of similar to yours, just on a different schedule.
Sure.
So no.
When it seems to be working for you,
it's working okay. I mean, we're still here, right?
It looks good from my house.
Okay. So how about nutrition wise? Is there anything you're going to tell me that you have no guidelines for anything I ask you, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I had, so on the island when we were living off the coast of Maine, a lot of the food was grown on the island. It was almost entirely organic. We had an amazing chef, this guy named Rick Perry, and he sort of indirectly, he and my parents taught me to eat well, to eat a balanced meal, to get protein and carbs and vegetables at every meal. And it wasn't until I turned 18 and went to college, and even more so after college, because you're in college, you're on a meal plan. Like you can make terrible choices, but mostly you can put together the same stuff that you grew up eating. It was really when I started making my own choices that I took responsibility for it, and I realized that the planning that it takes to feed yourself properly, and for a long time, like from say 2012 until 2017, I was teaching between 14 and 23 spin classes a week. So when you're riding 3 times a day, you don't have to put a whole lot of thought into what you put in your body. You're just trying to get beyond a caloric deficit. You're trying to put enough in. You
need a lot of calories.
So
that's like the Michael Phelps, like I eat 20 hamburgers and I'm still going to be the leanest guy you've ever seen.
Right. And age will change that. Slowing down I don't think anybody should do 23 spin classes a week. I mean, more power to you if you do it and that's what works for you. But I don't think it was great for me. And as you begin to become more mindful about your energetic output, you have to become more mindful about your energetic input. And I am a creature of habit in that regard. I eat pretty much. I'm not an early eater. I will very commonly get through, but I get up late. So I'll get through the early afternoon before I actually put a meal in. I'll drink coffee every morning. I take vitamin C, DHEA, and probiotics when I get up in the morning, and give those time to take root. But a balanced diet.
And what do your meals usually look like? Like, what's a typical meal? Like, whether you had it today or yesterday, or like, what does that usually look like on a daily
eggs
basis?
Or a breakfast sandwich for breakfast. I really like a salad or a soup for lunch, something that's not too heavy. And then I've been on a pretty serious protein and greens kick. And just keep it simple at night, sort of take out the carbs and add in more vegetables or a big salad and chicken or some other, solid bioavailable protein. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I love it, but I don't. It just doesn't make its way into my diet very often, unless it's a burger, which I do it probably once a week.
Gotcha. And you're not like counting. You're not counting like protein grams or anything like that. You're doing it more by feel, or you're counting calories or anything like that, or is it more
I was told there would be no math.
I know, dude, trust me. I'm not getting deep on the math either.
No, but my girlfriend does it or did it. Again, I admire the discipline.
It's a lot. I've tried to do it a couple of times. Yeah,
it's a lot. And I do it entirely by feel. I try to pay attention to what I'm putting in. I try to pay attention to what I'm putting out. And it's the same messy desk. The refrigerator is very organized, but the desk that runs it is messy.
Got it. Okay. I notice when you're on your rides, you're not wearing like an Apple Watch or anything most of the time, as far as I can tell. Are you a device guy, or are you all natural, no devices?
I feel like you've got a listening device in my home. I was just having a discussion this morning about Whoops and Oura rings and the whole.
Okay, so I'm addicted. I've got about everything you can have.
I don't wear an Apple Watch. They are amazing little products. I rue the day that I got a cell phone in the first place. I only ever got a cell phone much later than everyone else in 1999 because my roommate at the time didn't pay the phone bill. And the second time the phone got shut off, I went to go turn it back on and stopped at the Singular Wireless kiosk in the grocery store because I was furious about the bill and got a cell phone instead. I never wanted an electric leash, and the ability for people to send me text messages on my wrist gives me anxiety. And I don't normally have anxiety.
You can turn all the notifications off, but okay, go ahead.
All right. Well, we're going to offline about that. Maybe you can tell me how to gatekeep my wearables. But I read an incredible book late last year by James Nestor called Breath, and he's discussing it's essentially the transition from nose breathing in the early days of humanity to mouth breathing, and the amount that we chew, and the way that more processed foods and less active chewing and weaker facial and jaw muscles have changed the bone structure and the size and shape of our sinuses, and that affected the breathing passages, and also they affected the inflammation patterns, and just how powerful nose breathing can be. I do it naturally, and we do it in yoga as a practice, but the data behind it is amazing. And I was just having a discussion this morning about breath rate. And the book, essentially, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it says that the ideal breath lasts 5.5 seconds in and out. It's 5.5 seconds. You're breathing essentially like 10, 11 times a minute. And a apparently there is a practice called resonant breathing that if you practice it 20 minutes a day will change a number of your specifically heart metrics. Heart rate variability. Yeah. And these are the things that we get interested in as we get older. Like when we're young, we want to jump higher and run faster and be like, have the biggest bicep. And, and as we transition, we want to live a more examined life and figure out how to extend that at a high performance level, or at least a high quality level.
Yeah, you're talking my language right there.
Yeah.
I'm so interested in all that stuff, and
so I'm interested in wearables, but I don't have any yet.
Yeah. Oh God, it's such a rabbit hole to go down. Like I said, I've been a bit addicted. I probably am I probably have gone overboard. But I do love to see the data, and this is a good transition actually, because I want to talk to you about, what a fitness routine especially for somebody maybe in their 40s, could and should look like. And, I'll tell you a little bit about so I've started to mess around with zone 2, cardio training and trying to go out for runs, and the Apple Watch is actually pretty good about, you can set the zone you want to be in, and you can, and it'll buzz you if you get out of that zone and all that kind of stuff. But I'm getting that's a pretty solid sales pitch. I teach power zone training on the Peloton platform, which, I absolutely love. And it's different from heart rate zone, but it is broken up into 7 zones instead of 5. And I think it is, an amazing, effective tool for maintaining and building performance over time. And something, I'm so responsive to music that when my favorite song comes on, I end up way higher than I'm supposed to be. Well, what's funny is with some, I don't know if, you want to hear this or not, but on some of your rides, so I've done one of your let's see, I did this yesterday. I did a 45-minute 80s ride live. And I actually decided this was going to be a zone 2 workout for me. So,
I do that all the time at my house.
Okay. So I had the Apple Watch on, and I had it keeping me in zone 2 and buzzing me when I get out of zone 2 now. But I had that experience because when
Lou Graham
something
came on
great
just
comes
between
on,
you and me.
Yeah, I'm I want to get after it, but I'm okay, now I know what I'm trying to do here. So, but that's a whole separate conversation, that whole zone 2 and all that. But I've just been learning about it and really getting fascinated by this whole idea of going slow to go faster long term, and almost doing an 80-20 type of split between, basically long endurance type of workouts 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time do what I did today, which was one of your HIIT workouts, and just bust it for 20 minutes and be drenched with sweat, So, so anyways,
you end up drenched with sweat after an hour in zone 2 also.
Yeah.
That long duration, low intensity work is remarkably effective, and there's room for both ends. But the fact of the matter is and again, as we start to get a little older, it becomes more about functional training. You don't need to go out to the garage and lift your car, but you do need to lift your kids, and you do need to be able to get down the stairs and off the curb safely and then back to bed.
Exactly. And so, okay, so let me ask you this, and this may not be a fair question because I didn't give you any advance notice that I was going to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you anyways. If you're and let's just turn this into a personal coaching session for me, which was the whole idea in the first place. Sorry, Dennis.
That'll be 3 easy installments
of scam. I hope I don't get a bill from Peloton at the end of this. But okay, so let's say curious, thinking about how your body changes and how you need to train maybe differently when you're 40 plus. Let's pick 40s because you and I are in our 40s. If I say to you, Dennis, okay, I have 3 goals. 1, don't get injured. 2, improve cardio fitness, and 3, improve body composition. Right? Those are my 3 goals. You tell me if you like those goals or not. But
is it important to you if I like those goals?
I guess not, but it's interesting to me if they strike you as weird. But
no, I think they're solid. But I have friends that are in their 40s that are aiming for hypertrophy. They want their legs and biceps to be bigger than they've ever been. And then I've got other friends like us that are that want longevity and comfort in our own skin.
Yeah.
So.
So if I give you a constraint of I've got 45 minutes a day to make this happen, what could something like that look like in terms of how would you achieve those things?
All right. So first, a body in motion stays in motion. My first piece of advice is be consistent and don't stop. So it's the long gaps between workouts that slow our progress. We tend to think that when we work out, we're getting better, and when we don't work out, we stay the same. But the fact of the matter is, everything is in constant flux, and every day we're getting a little better, or maybe losing a little bit of ground. So make a little bit of progress every day. Try to be accountable. Within parameters. I'm not saying grind yourself into the floor every day, but give yourself a rest day or two. Find what works for you, but stay in motion. Sorry, what were the?
So I don't want to get injured.
Injury prevention.
I want to improve cardio and I want to improve body composition, basically.
Injury prevention. Flexibility and stability equal mobility. Mm-hmm. So the longer our muscles are, the better our body can move, and the further from our typical muscle length we can get without injuring, without pulling or straining. The stronger our muscles are, the more willing they are to move in a functional range of motion. So, like if you have tight hamstrings, one of the best things you can do is strengthen your hamstrings. And strength and flexibility are going to be what help you prevent injury. Whether you lift heavy or you lift moderate or light, it doesn't really important to me, but weight bearing exercise and flexibility work consistently, like Hannah Corbin, that you started with all those years ago. Did you stretch though? Her hashtag on social media is did you stretch though? You did all this other stuff, but did you get your muscles back to their normal length?
Yes.
And I think it's one of the most commonly overlooked aspects of fitness. Is flexibility.
Especially as we get older. I was just texting with my buddy about this, and he's like, you know what? He's like, you need to do a slightly shorter run so you have that extra time at the end to stretch. I'm like, yes, I do.
Yeah. And like I was saying about the long gaps between workouts, I just went to visit my girlfriend's family in Massachusetts before Christmas, and then after Christmas, we came home for one night and flew to Florida to see my family. And I may not have been entirely diligent about my workout routine during all of that time. And I got back here and I got on the bike, and I was certain that I was towing my car. It's so hard to come back.
Right.
And the longer you go in between workouts, the more challenging it is. And psychologically, that can be really, really frustrating. And it becomes prohibitive. So stay consistent. A little bit of dynamic stretching before you go on your run, or before you get on the bike, or before you lift. And then a little bit of slower, more static stretching at the end to get your muscles back to their natural length. And a little bit of flexibility training will really, really help you prevent injury and stay consistent.
Cool. Okay. I think I'm on the right track. I'm doing like 3 zone 2 workouts a week, mixed between cycling or spinning and running. And then I'm doing like 1 HIIT workout a week. And then I'm doing like a few strength workouts. I'm trying to get in like 1 yoga. I think I need to get in. I need to personally do more stretching. And I imagine that most of us probably do. It's such an easy thing to ignore. And we're not getting any younger.
It's funny though, because we say things like, oh, I should do. Nobody likes to be should on.
Yeah, you're right.
And I try to think about like the reasons you want to do it. Why do you want to be able to move? you want to be able to move with your family. You want to be able to feel good in your own skin. Like those, if you think about the goal as opposed to the process, I feel like that provides more motivation for me anyway. I want to be a better surfer. I want to, when I get the section of a wave that really lights me up, I want to be able to light it up.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That's great advice. Okay, Dennis, we're going to finish. I got one or two more things to ask you, but here's what I'm hoping to do. We got a couple of more lighthearted questions, I would say. Let's do this rapid fire. Okay. So you don't have to give me a big, long answer, but I'm just kind of interested in your
Clearly, I don't know how to do that.
I want to hear your first reaction, and
all right.
And then we'll move on. All right, so craziest experience you've ever had at Peloton?
Oh, somebody showed up thinking that they were going to move in with me.
Oh,
leave it there.
Okay. Next question. All right. What is the one saying of yours that people most quote back to you?
If you can't be good, be careful.
That's great. I love that one. Where did they come from? Let me ask you that.
If you can't be good, be careful was my high school football coach every Friday night after the game. My two other favorites are I make suggestions, you make decisions, which I stole from a girl I dated many, many years ago. And my absolute favorite that I don't say often enough is if you can't get out of it, get into it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if the Peloton merchandise people put t-shirts, they have t-shirts associated with all these by now or what?
Some of them have been used in the past. I don't know if all of them have.
Interesting. If you're all right, this one I don't want to get you in trouble, but if you're on a day off and you're going to do a Peloton ride, which instructor are you doing it with? Can't say yourself.
It rotates. I take a lot of Matt Wilper's rides.
Same.
Yeah. Well, he and I are very close. He's the guy that initiated me into the Power Zone order. Yeah. And but I just rode with Christine the other day. I love an Alex hip hop ride. If Robin is wearing yellow on a ride, I know that I'm going to end up drenched, like you discussed earlier. I really do rotate through the entire thing. Yeah. Adrian Williams left me on my floor not too long ago. I mean, God. He wasn't here, but
he's a beast.
He is a monster. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And sometimes I do the same thing you do, and I will get on and watch my colleagues practice their art while I'm riding zone, alternating between zone 2 and 3.
Yeah. Cool. Most fun class you've ever taught?
I taught a really fun classic rock yoga flow just this past Saturday. Most fun I've ever taught. I love my reset rides. I love the artist series rides.
Yeah.
The Beatles ride, the Eminem ride was really well received.
I haven't done that yet. I've heard great things about it.
Well, Eminem meant a lot to me. And I think he gave a lot of people who perhaps didn't have the vocabulary to discuss their internal struggles. The words, not only the words, but also the sort of the flexibility, the freedom to say these vulnerable things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Good answer. What's the worst class you've ever taught?
I mean,
it must have something just go absolutely terribly wrong, right?
The first ones were really bad. I had taken 15 spin classes when I taught my first spin class. Yeah. And there I am, like this just greenhorn in front of a room full of people who've been riding with the guy that originated, Johnny G, since the 80s. I'm like around the corner from his house. I'm sure there are a lot of them. I don't know. I'm not a good judge of this. You don't get far patting yourself on the back for the things you do right. Was there ever one at Peloton where it was just like a total disaster and you had to scrap it? Like, does that happen ever? Do you have to ever scrap rides? There have been things taken off demand.
Okay. For
various reasons that I will not elucidate.
Okay. Leave it there. All right. Last one. What's something that happens behind the scenes that people might be surprised about?
most of our job is meetings.
No.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Well, is it? It seems to be going really well for us.
True.
So it takes a village. And as creative and dynamic as all of us are as instructors, it takes a lot of people's hard work and dedication to make us look good doing it. And to really curate a powerful moment. Our music team is amazing. Our teams of producers are constantly coming to us with creative ideas, and
cool.
Yeah, it takes a village. Awesome. That's the surprise awesome. is how many people's incredibly hard work and massive talent go into making us look good.
I can imagine. Yeah, it would be cool to see the sausage made. To be honest with you, I'd love to sit in, be a fly on the wall, and see one of those meetings, because I'm sure it's really cool. Like all the different content formats you guys come up with, and series you guys come up with. It's a lot of fun. You keep it fresh.
There's a lot of thought behind it.
Yeah, I love that. All right, last question, and then we will get you out of here. It's kind of a hefty one, so I'll just dive right in and ask you, what is one thing in life that you have figured out that maybe most others haven't yet?
I've been listening to your podcast, and I knew this was coming. And
sometimes I forget. Most of the times I remember to answer it. So I've forgotten once or twice.
Well, I share the same oxygen as Socrates and Brene Brown. What could I possibly have figured out that they didn't? That we're stronger than we think we are. That we're better in every capacity than we think we are, and that we're worth the effort to find out. We all live in a prison, a framework, a structure of our own imagination. And I think a lot of us live in a smaller fishbowl than we deserve, when we could claim the entire sea.
Yeah. Love that. That's a great one to leave us on. Well, I think you've done a great job sort of living that out, right? I mean, starting out and all the different jobs that you've had throughout your life, and, going from Florida to LA to Texas to New York, right? Kind of dreaming a little bit bigger, and not being afraid to take on the real big challenges.
Well, and that's just it. When given the opportunity to bet on yourself, roll the dice.
Yeah.
Roll the dice.
All right. You got me feeling inspired at the end of this one. Dennis, this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed it. I love your work. Please keep it up. I really appreciate the chance to work out with you on a regular basis. So you're inspiring a lot of people. You're doing a lot of great work. So I appreciate you coming on here and continuing to share that message.
Thanks so much, man. It's really flattering that you would want me to be here in the first place, and I'm honored to share.
Awesome. Thanks so much. All right.
Thanks, Greg.